Trump's tariffs sparked a sell-off and crypto is crashing, but what can 2021 tell us about what's going to happen in 2025? So in today's video, we're going to look at the Bitcoin chart from last cycle to see what it tells us about Bitcoin's next potential move. And the reason why we need to do that is this recent crash that we just experienced over the last 24 hours has people already calling for the end of the bull run. Now they're saying we're now technically in a bear market. But are we in a bear market? And does this look like what happened 4 years ago? Because like I said, 2021 tells us a different story. We're going to look at some of the historical context here. Now, before we get into the charts, there are two words on why we crashed today. First word, Trump. Trump's tariffs, sparked a little bit of a market-wide sell-off. We're seeing it in the stock market. We're seeing it in treasuries. And Trump just doubled down on the Mexico and Canada 25% tariffs. The other word is going to be manipulation. There was a giant Bybit hack, and they had to recover $1.5 billion in Ethereum after it was stolen potentially by the Lazarus Group based out of North Korea. And so now people are asking, well, how can an exchange make $1.5 billion in 1 month? Well, we saw insane amount of liquidations here. Quentin with the take here. Yeah, no idea how could they possibly make that back, he said sarcastically. Bybit just yesterday in 24 hours pulled in $672 million from their traders being liquidated. And if you look at the numbers here, vast majority of that was people longing the market. So there's a little bit of a dip. People got bullish. They tried to long it, and then they got liquidated, wrecking themselves, giving all their money back to the exchanges. Now, at the end of this video, I'll show you a trade I myself made. I had to try to long the dip a little bit. Now, let's get back to 2021. So this is back to Quentin's account here. 2020 to 2021, there was an insane amount of corrections. Now, I'm guessing that meant correction cycles. Many 20+% correction. So let's jump into the charts here. So this is Bitcoin, and we're looking at roughly the 21. So this is Bitcoin, and we're looking at roughly the 2020 to 2021 range. Now, we got on a log chart so we can see it a little bit more easily. So going all the way back to August, September 2020, that's when we got our first crash of over 20%. Took about 20 days, a little under 3 weeks, crashed 21%. Shortly after that, after we started running up a whole lot, we had another insane crash. One day, we wicked all the way up from, about $35,000, wicked all the way down to $27K. That was a 21% in 1 day, followed by a 31% over 2 weeks. If you keep going, you'll see more and more crashes over 20%. This was in February 2021, fell over 7 days, 26%. Also in April 2021, 27% over 12 days. And then look at this massive sell-off that happened in May. The old sell in May, walk away. Well, it was actually much worse for Ethereum. So Bitcoin in May fell about 50% over 9 days. We look over at Ethereum. Ethereum fell over 60% over about 11 days, also in May 2021. Now, you zoom out, you'll see more and more corrections for Bitcoin, but none of them larger than the 50% flash crash that we had around May. And so when we zoom out a little bit and go to 2024, the beginning of 2024, you see starting in January, we had a 21% correction, 22%, 25%, and then roughly at the start of August, we had a 30% correction. And so when we go here and we look at the recent crash, zooming out of the daily chart, things don't look quite as scary. And you can see, oh, okay, 21% dip. But when you look at 2021's action, 2020, many such cases, although we continued to put in higher highs all the way up until November, where Bitcoin eventually topped at $69,000. So when you take the 30,000 foot view of Bitcoin, this 21% crash, not necessarily a reason for me to want to sell. In fact, I actually bought an extra little bit of Bitcoin this morning. Raoul Paul saying it wasn't just 2021. Here he has a post talking about 2017. This was the second bull run. We're right now kind of in the fourth bull run. We had 5 28% plus pullbacks in Bitcoin, and most of them lasted 2 to 3 months before we would eventually get a new high. Alts over 60% corrections. Everything was noise. Got to do something else more constructive than just stare at the screen, staring at the charts there. And when you zoom in, you just see many pullbacks. And so once you take things in perspective, like Marty Party's post right here, lining up with our previous post, you can see where we are in this Bitcoin cycle, where we are in 2025, right at a bear trap. And so do not fall for the bear trap is what he's saying. And you can see right here, roughly a little under 300 days or so, You know, we saw a crash right here, saw a crash right there, saw a crash right here, and right now, you know, zooming out, doesn't even look like a crash. This little 21% correction is nothing, and typically we're going to peak out, you know, closer to about 500 days after halving. We've done a lot of videos on these as well, so plenty of time for the bull run to continue. Now I want to give you a little bit last dash of hopium here, you know, hopefully zooming out, seeing the crashes last cycle will help you do that. But Caleb Franzen brought up something pretty telling here. The 4-hour RSI is now oversold for only the 5th time since August 2024. And it's actually the most oversold since August 2024. So let's look at some of this data. So RSI, Relative Strength Index. And this is the RSI on the bottom right here. So you can see Bitcoin's price on the top. RSI largely will move with it. Now, the Relative Strength Index came in super low. So we're going to draw a horizontal line here and see, well, what happened last time we were this bearish. So we got to scroll, scrolling, waiting for the RSI to look this bearish. Run 4-hour candles here. Boom. We see one right there. So this was the last time the RSI was this bearish. And we zoom out to look at the price action of Bitcoin. So the last time the RSI kind of repeated this pattern, we had a 30% correction over 8 days. And if you look right here, the correction not nearly as steep. You know, if you measure it from there, it's a little over 20. If you want to just do the recent action, I think over the last 4 days or so, yeah, I mean, you're looking only at a 13% correction. And so if we look at the next move for the RSI, next move for the price action, Bitcoin would fail to put in a lower low from that point. That was literally the lowest Bitcoin has ever seen. Now, who knows what might happen in the bear market next year, but Bitcoin has never reached this low of a price. Last time we saw the RSI this oversold, we're seeing the RSI oversold again. And we just kind of want to measure the pump. We've got a nice little pump of about 30% over almost about 3 weeks. So a little bit of hopium for you out there. So folks, I am not selling my Bitcoin. And like I said, I actually opened a long. You know, we're a little bit in profit right now. We got a little long on LBank, and now is the time for low leverage. That's why I'm only doing 7x on Solana. You know, I don't know how much lower it can go from 140. So we got a little long in. We're gonna have a link down below if you want to try to trade this dip with LBank. Well, I'm Deezy. That's all I got. And hopefully I'll see you in your Satoshis at the top.